America is an amazing country filled with wonderful people who do incredible things. But too often, the media and liberal politicians ignore big parts of our nation and the people who make it work. So I'm speaking with leaders and policymakers who deal with real problems every day. I'm Ronna McDaniel, and this is Real America. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. We're going to cover issues facing real Americans outside the bubble, from getting kids back in the classrooms and banning critical race theory to creating an economy of unlimited opportunity. Kim, I'm so excited to be in Iowa. We're actually here in Cedar Rapids, and you probably don't know this, but I am a huge Kevin Costner fan, and one of my favorite movies is Field of Dreams.
Yep.
And he says, "Is this heaven?" And they go, "No, it's Iowa." It's Iowa.
Uh-huh.
So, but it is so beautiful. You've just got to love being governor, and thank you for sitting down and being part of my podcast today.
Oh, I'm so happy to do it. Thank you for being here. I'm actually a fifth-generation Iowan. So,
Really?
Yep, and I chose to stay in Iowa to raise our girls in Iowa, and now they're raising our grandchildren in Iowa. So I love the fact that they're continuing to make Iowa their home, and we say, why wouldn't you? And we loved having the MLB here, and the Field of Dreams.
And
that was amazing.
They did the game. They just did
it was
the game.
amazing.
I know.
It showcased Iowa.
Did you
so
go to
beautifully.
that game?
Oh yeah,
it looked amazing.
Yeah.
And they were in the old school.
Yeah. It was. I
uniforms.
Tell you, the game was fantastic. The field was fantastic. When they hit the home runs into the corn, the sunset was beautiful. So it really showcased the best of Iowa.
Is that going to be an ongoing tradition?
It is going to be an ongoing tradition.
Okay,
so I'm very excited about that.
I would like an invite.
Yeah, you have to come and see it.
And Kevin Costner was here too.
And so I was stalking him a little bit too. I too am a huge Kevin Costner fan.
Gosh.
And so he said when I finally got to sit down, he said, as the governor of this state, you have got to be really excited about what's taking place here and how well Iowa is being showcased. And I said I couldn't be prouder. So it was really a neat experience
I love that
for Iowa.
story. I know. I want to try and go see it because it's not that far away from here. But as you said, you're 5 generations.
Yep.
You have 3 daughters.
Yes.
You have 11 grandkids, which blows my mind because you look so great. And I think as a governor and a woman who has kids and grandkids, when COVID hit, it gave you a different perspective on closing schools and what that would mean for education. So tell me about that and the decisions you made and how being a mom and a grandma helped you.
Well, it really did. First of all, I have 11 grandchildren, as you said. I have several that are in school, and our youngest daughter is a teacher. Okay. So I heard it from every single perspective. And I heard from a lot of moms. I heard from my daughters. They would say, "Mom, I didn't go into teaching for a reason." The other 2 who were trying to work, be a mom, and teach their kids at home, and just how hard it was for the kids. And so, it was really important for me and for the kids to get them back in the classroom, to put parents back in charge of their children's education. And I actually, to be fair on Iowa, probably 90% of our schools had our kids in the classroom 100% of the time. We did it safely and responsibly. We had tons of data to support that. I just had a handful that really, and some of our larger school districts, that just would not listen to the data, wouldn't do what was right for the kids, and we're leaving so many children behind. And we held actually virtual town halls and talked to moms and teachers and students, and it was heart-wrenching to hear the stories that I heard. They felt like they were failing at everything. I had kids saying they had 60 minutes worth of class instruction and it was just busy work, and just recognizing what that was doing to the kids. The first bill that I signed when we went back into the legislature was to give parents the option not only to go 100% virtual, but to have 100% in the classroom. And it was the right thing to do.
That's so strong. It's so powerful for me because I'm from neighboring Michigan. I talk about this a lot, and my son never got back in the classroom 5 days a week in person. And the social impact it had, so many things, the education that he lost. So many states, their scores have gone down. Your scores have gone up.
Right.
Because of those decisions.
And we did assessments. A lot of states aren't doing assessments, which again is unconscionable because they don't want to know the damage that they've done to these kids.
They don't want to be graded on what they've done.
They don't want to be responsible or held accountable once again. And I said, absolutely, we're going to do an assessment. So, last year we didn't come back after the last month, but we were able to make up those test scores within 3 months. And we continued to see progress being made. And I think we'll we'll have some great data moving forward. But, it's unconscionable what this administration has done, and President Biden, for him to just give lip service to parents and children, and I'm going to get you back in school in 100 days, and we're going to do this right, while the whole time just kowtowed to the teachers union, placated to whatever they needed to do. And it's just the next new thing. So I'll be surprised.
I think we're going to see a lot of data coming out about kids that have just been lost, that
it
never
is.
logged
It'll be
in.
decades. Yep.
The impact of this is going to go so far.
Yep.
And when you're looking at only one component and not balancing, how can we do this, follow the science, and get the kids in the classroom? So now you have fall coming up. You've got school about to start. How are you dealing with the Delta variant and the Lambda variant that's apparently coming our way too?
Well, we're doing it just like we did it before. Our vaccination rates are really good. We're doing it safely and responsibly. The other bill that I passed last year that was reinforced over and over as I spent 11 days at the Iowa State Fair was we banned mask mandates. Again, we said that we're going to put parents back in control. I said local control is parental control. It's
and
the
you're
very
definition
definition
for that too. You get attacked.
I really am, but I'm telling you, I don't know the health of students. We don't know what's going on in that family. A parent will give them the information, which we did, let them do the assessment, the evaluation.
Exactly.
And the other thing is there's no data. I am so tired of people talking about data, and there really isn't.
And be
good
honest
data.
with us.
And be honest.
The thing too is my son getting the vaccine, a big part of him getting the vaccine was I won't have to wear a mask in school.
Right.
And guess
and then
what?
change that.
They just did a mask mandate in his school. And so now it's very hard to learn.
Yep.
It's very hard to pay attention when you can't see your teacher speaking. In class is better than virtual. But there's so much that I think Americans are recognizing how quickly their freedoms can be stripped. And yes, it's COVID, but what's the next thing where they take away your freedom?
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to sit with you because you've done some really, really strong things with your schools. One, you are not letting them teach CRT in the schools. So talk about that.
So again, that's another thing I think that COVID did is it really gave parents a front row seat as to what was happening in their classroom. I mean, they were engaged, but we're busy, we're working, and you're talking to your kids, but they actually saw what was being taught and what wasn't being taught, and they were appalled. And I'm telling you, whether it's getting the kids in the classroom 5 days a week, all day, or giving parents the option whether to to put their child in a mask or not, or to have control of what their children are being taught. We have a lot of moms and dads, got a lot of angry moms that are stepping up and running for the school board and really being vocal now because of what they've seen. And it's just unconscionable, really.
I mean, you've seen school boards refuse to tell parents what they're teaching their children.
Refuse to tell parents what they're teaching the children, not letting parents speak, shutting them down.
Removing them from school board meetings.
Fighting open records request. I mean, if we tried to get by with that, can you even imagine? I mean, I don't know. At the state level, it would be tough. At the federal level, they seem to be able to do that.
CRT is so dangerous on so many levels.
To teach hate and to say that this country is fundamentally racist is so wrong. Teaching young kids to hate this country that's full of opportunity in the American dream.
You were born
as
a racist
oppressor?
or an oppressor or oppressed just based on the color of your
Yep.
skin. It changes everything we believe in our country.
Everything that the country was founded on, and it's just so false. And we
banned
banned it. Yeah,
it's done.
And listen, we're not banning teaching American history. Of course we're not. And we are teaching, but we are banning indoctrination. We should be teaching our kids how to think, not what to think, and not be teaching hate. And so we banned it.
I love that.
We
How
had
to
a
think,
really
not
good
what to
year.
think.
How to think, not
And
what
part
to
of that
think.
is a dialogue.
And it is a dialogue. We quit talking, and now we're really driving that division in kindergarten. We're starting it in preschool and kindergarten,
and we're going to spoon feed you what you have to believe. And if you don't believe it, the consequences are so strong.
Yeah.
You will be bullied. You will be attacked at school. Your teachers will give you bad grades if you do not conform with our belief. And that is so contrary to the innovation and everything our country stands for. The other thing you've done, and I want to talk about this, is as we've seen riots across the country and crime rates really rising, you are pushing a Back the Blue Act.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, it was really important, and we really got in front of it. I am so proud of our men and women that serve in law enforcement, that put their lives on the line every single day to keep us and our communities safe. And I saw it over and over through the riots. And we were really fortunate because we had a pretty good relationship with our law enforcement in our communities. And so we were able to just tamp it down really early and say, we're just not going to stand for it. And then we went the step further with our Back the Blue legislation that we passed and I signed into the law this year. And what's in that
legislation?
So it really just says if you riot, loot, or try to prevent or try to stop traffic on our interstates, that you're going to be held to you're going to be held accountable and you're going to be punished. That we're not going to stand for that. We actually put additional funding into our law enforcement and just gave them the tools to do what they need to do to keep us safe. And so qualified immunity is another part of this, which people. That's not unreasonable for people that want to attack based on baseless claims. And so it was a pretty comprehensive bill.
When you meet with other governors, and I know you meet regularly with other governors, and they are talking about this rise in murder, crime, all the things that they're seeing in their major cities. I mean, do they ever ask you about things like this and model it?
Well, and we highlighted. We had a really successful legislative session, and you've just touched on several of the things. But but just how important it is and that it is working. And I tell you, when I pass my law enforcement, they smile. I give them a thumbs up and I say thank you, and they literally are smiling. And it's a great recruiting tool for the state, not only for law enforcement to come here because we appreciate those that serve, but also, as a mom, you want to know that your kids are being raised in safe communities. As a business, do you want to come invest in a community or in a state where you don't know if tomorrow they're going to riot and loot and burn your business down?
Or have a home in a community that if you call 911, you get a mental health worker instead of a trained police officer. There's so much wrong with what the progressive Democrats are pushing. And it's actually going to hurt communities of color more than anybody because they're the ones who are going to lose their businesses and their property values will go down. Their schools will be not be able to get the funding they need. This is such a counterintuitive mindset to say defund the police. And it's not just defund, it's demoralize.
Demoralize, and not allow them to do the job. Yep. They're basically not allowing them to do the job. And do you think they know that? Yes.
Criminals what you did is amazing. I think it's so
I'm really
amazing.
proud of that.
Do you see police officers? Do they know? Do they say thank you?
Yeah, they do. They just say that we know in Iowa that you have our back. And, they know that for a fact, and they know that Iowans do, most importantly, because, elected officials supported them, and they represent Iowans all across the state, so they know that Iowans have their back as well.
It makes such a difference to feel valued and to be listened to. And when you're putting your life on the line.
Look at the data. Look what's happening in Minneapolis and Portland and, St. Louis, some of these communities. I mean, they're recognizing New York. Yeah. I mean, just the statistics are horrendous. And how do you turn that around? It doesn't happen overnight. And people are fleeing. I mean, they are fleeing. We are having people come to Iowa because they want wide open spaces, quality of life, and low taxes.
Well, that leads me to my next question, which I'm going to brag on you a little bit because Iowa was named one of the states where you can have the most opportunity in the entire country.
Yep.
And a big part of that is your focus on trade missions.
Yeah.
Talk about that. What are you doing to help bring people to Iowa and investment into your state?
Well, not only investment out, but investment back into Iowa. But it starts with just a great environment. We have a great quality of life. We have a really great workforce. Our workforce participation rate is always in the top percentage of the country. Iowans are known for that. So especially with the issues that we're having with workforce right now, which is a whole nother issue that I want to talk about the federal government not helping on. Yeah. But we've led trade missions all over the world. I had the opportunity to do that as lieutenant governor. It's been a little bit restricted.
So where do you go on a trade mission? Tell me what a trade mission is.
We've been to China, Brazil, Argentina, Korea, Vietnam, just everywhere. What we do is we work with our economic development agency, and they really take a look at where our biggest opportunities are at.
Okay.
It's also about it's all about relationships. You know that that's how you drive the.
So you sell your state.
You sell your state. Iowa has a great brand of safe, reliable, quality products. 10% of the nation's food food supply is produced by our Iowa farmers and producers, 10%. So that's another reason that it was so important during COVID that we kept our economy open, because I had to keep that food supply chain moving. 10%, and we feed the world. And we also, do a lot with
What are the primary crops? Corn,
we
obviously.
lead in pork, corn, eggs, renewable fuels, and then we're second in soy, second in beef. We sell a lot of pork and beef to Mexico, Canada, China.
Did you have a lot of disruption during the pandemic?
Well, we did it first. I mean, I worked really closely with President Trump, and we were able to make our processing plants. We were able to utilize the Defense Production Act, which was really important. But what I did is I was also one of the governors that led with testing surveillance, and so I was able to go into these processing plants and do testing and identify who was testing positive and not, so that the workers that were going in there not only had the appropriate PPE, protection equipment, but also knew that the people that they were working with had tested negative, and they were working in a safe environment.
Stopping that spread.
So we were stopping that
and
spread.
And preventing a whole plant from shutting down.
Right, because we were able to test Iowa. We were able to
keep that supply chain going.
And keep that going, which was really, really important.
So you talked about Trump. And you had a partner.
Yeah,
you had somebody who understood stripping back regulation, who understood so many of these things. Then you get Biden.
Yeah.
Biden, who is doubling down on the socialist wing of his party, who actually is incentivizing people not to work, paying them to stay out of the workforce, which is hurting everybody, small businesses everywhere. We're seeing this across the country. How have you handled that?
Well, it's such a contrast to what we had before, where we really had a partner in the White House, and we got up every day excited to think about the policies that we could coordinate with them. I was on the President's Workforce Advisory Board. I love that. Governor Holcomb and I were the two governors that served on that. Holcomb. Worked really closely with Ivanka and just that whole team, which was just amazing. And now you've got somebody that at every turn is just fighting everything you do. I stopped. I ended the $300 a week.
And what have you seen from that when you stopped the $300?
Our foot traffic in our workforce development offices increased 175%. Just when I announced it, anecdotally, I talked to businesses. People were starting to show up again because they knew that on June 12th it was going away.
You stopped it in June.
Yeah, I stopped it June 12th.
Other states are still going through September.
Yeah. The Democratic states, the blue states. Almost every red state has every Republican governor.
And that's why we're leading in all the recovery.
We had, exactly, and we are. I'm mimicking what's happening in maybe a little bit better here in Iowa. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say that. But across the board, honestly, Republican-led states are coming out of this.
But it makes common
COVID.
sense. If you're paying people not to work, of course they're going to stay home. But then that restaurant can't get somebody to work the counter or the cashier. And
Cooks.
Then eventually those, my husband has a gentleman he knows who just had to close his business, 74 years old.
Yeah.
He couldn't find anybody to work for him in Michigan, not in your great state. But he said, for the first time in my life, I'm going to have to go look for a job at 74 years old because the business I built and put all my blood, sweat, and tears into, I can't find anybody to work for me. And he had to shut those doors. This is so scary what's happening across the country.
And he's just continuing it. So it's not just unemployment, but it's rent eviction. It is, all you have to do is have a child to get child care dollars deposited directly into your account. You don't even have to be working. I mean, all of those start to add up. And at some point, it's just easier to just stay home. And so we ended that. And here's the thing I want your listeners to know. We are so willing to invest in Iowans to get them the skills, to reskill, retrain, to get them on a pathway to fill these amazing careers that are in every single corner of the state. So it's not like we're turning our back. We're actually wanting to help.
But I think the underlying message there is we as a party recognize the importance of work.
Oh, dignity. The dignity in work.
The dignity of work.
Yeah.
We know that if people are working, there's so much value in their lives, and they're creating a cycle of work and contribution for their family, and that is pivotal.
It's just being chipped at.
Yep.
Chipped at, and it's really, really sad to see that happen.
So we talk about agriculture. Agriculture's big, we know, in your state.
Yeah.
But energy is huge in your state. Right. It is a big part, and you mentioned that earlier. Mm-hmm. And then you have Biden come in and cut things like the pipeline, add more regulation, demonize the energy industry.
Yeah.
How has that affected you, and what are you doing to stay ahead?
So we are, a leader in renewable energy. We lead in ethanol and biodiesel, and I am a all of the above energy policy because it has to be. We have to be diversified in how we're providing our energy to not only Iowans but Americans. And so the other component of this is that, we're a leading corn producer in the country, and 45% of our corn goes to ethanol or renewable fuels. And so it's really important that we preserve that industry. So what I'm having to do, like with everything else, is I have to take charge of my own destiny. So I have to take a look at policies within the state that I can balance and help drive an industry that supports fuel retailers, that supports choice at the pump. We lead in wind as well.
I did not know that.
We've been a leading, we've led in wind energy for years. It started back in, when Governor Branstad, I think, was in his first term, and we just put policies in place that drove the industry. And it's probably over 50% of our electricity is generated by renewable energy.
I had no idea.
And the reason, and we need to do it, of course, sustainably and responsibly, but as more and more of our corporations are looking to have their portfolio include
renewables,
some renewable, it's a big advantage for us when we're trying to bring new business to the state of Iowa.
So did they come and talk to you? Do businesses come and talk to you about how do I get more renewables?
It's part of that. When we're talking about bringing them in, that's a component that they're looking for, and we're able to provide that. We're also really spending a lot of time right now. I just created a carbon sequestration task force. So
you're going to have to unpack that a little bit. Okay,
I know that's with everybody, right? I know. Carbon sequestration task force. It's really capturing the CO2 that's generated from the ethanol plants and driving that into, making us reducing our scoring for our
reducing the carbon footprint.
Yay,
does that make sense?
There we go. Okay, see, I knew that. Thank you for helping me
That's
do that.
okay.
But you're right there.
I'm putting it into Rana terms so I can understand. Carbon sequestration.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
It's kind of like the epidemiologist
but that's amazing.
when
so
we
you're
started
catching
COVID.
it and preventing it from going into the atmosphere.
Yep, capturing it, turning it into liquid, piping it, and then burying it in a cavern far below the. Yeah.
That is so wonderful. How is that going?
It's really exciting. It's happening, but as the leading renewable, state, and then with our leading ag production, it's really important that we lead on this too. And so we're determined to be a leader when it comes to how we get this done and how we can roll it out and just really kind of drive the conversation. So I gave them 100 days. So the task force, incredible people around the table. We had one meeting at the Iowa State Fairgrounds.
Okay.
I've got the right people around the table. I'm really excited about it. And so hopefully in 100 days, we'll have some sense of what those next steps look like and the direction that we'll be taking to really drive the conversation.
So when people accuse Republicans of not caring about conservation,
wrong.
We are the anti-climate party. Look at what you're doing in your state.
Right.
So,
and it's a balance, right? But it still means you have a diversified energy portfolio.
And it's all of the above.
We need clean oil. We have renewables. We have, it's all of the above. But we spend a lot of time investing in conservation efforts and water quality efforts because, we have a lot of farmers in the state and they want to pass that land on to the next generation. And so it's really irresponsible for people to say we're not taking care of the land that we make our living on from and that we're passing on to the next generation. They do it every day.
I want to talk to you about two more things. One is your farmers. And under Trump, he really took a hard line on China.
Yeah.
And your farmers, had to sacrifice a little, but they were very supportive of that, understanding that we can't allow China to continue to undercut.
Right.
And we have to put America first and our farmers first. And long term, there would be a benefit of that. Biden demonized that. Democrats demonized that. Now they're doing the same thing. Tell me about your China policy or your thoughts on China and what this means long term for farmers.
Well, so I was really proud of my ag community because I had probably left-wing national media outlet in the state trying to drive that wedge, and they understood the importance of the long-term benefit that we'd been taken advantage of for a long time, and it was time that we held China accountable and do the right thing. And, they're a huge trading partner of ours, so we always have to balance that. But they understand strength, and you have to hold them accountable. Not always easy, because a lot of times they'll tell you one thing and then not follow through. But, the intellectual property theft, the technology transfer that our businesses are experiencing, the currency manipulation that we continue to deal with, the genetics that they mess with when we bring our grain into port. The list goes on and on. But I really was proud of the Phase 1 China deal, and we finally got a lot of that actually implemented. A good chunk of it before President Trump left. But they did follow through with what they said they would. We got beef back into China. But, we have to continue to look for new markets and new opportunities, so that we're not
the trade
beholden
missions.
to one, which is part of the
why you
relevance
have to have
of
the trade missions.
Yeah.
I want to talk also about tax policy, because one of the things Democrats often do is talk about taxing at the end of your life, the death tax. And we know how devastating that is for farmers.
Right.
And what that would mean. Explain why that is such a bad policy for families and just bankrupts them.
Well, and so we finished the last pieces of it this year. So we've eliminated the inheritance tax in the state of Iowa. At the same time, we've got the federal government wanting to, take
Bring it
more
back
of it.
in.
And they can't pass the land on to their family because the taxes are so high. They have to practically sell half of the farm in order to pay the taxes, so they can't afford to do it. So you can't pass that wealth and that family farm on, and it's just devastating to the ag community. It's just it's just another way that they come out and interject where they really are doing just the opposite of what we're trying to do in the state.
Because they take the whole value of the farm and then tax you upon your death.
Yep.
And
you can't afford it.
Your benefactors can't afford that.
No. And so
without selling the farm.
Without selling it. And so therefore you can't pass it on.
And ending that family business.
Generational farming.
That you're so proud to be a farmer.
Yep.
Tell me about your farmers. Just give me a picture of the people of your state.
Well, they're just Iowans in general. We've been through a lot, as everybody else has, but we started, I've had a real run of, devastating things. But we started with flooding along the Missouri in 2019, huge. President Trump was so instrumental in that and getting us the declarations in just record time for both Pete and I. From that, we went into drought and COVID-19, and then we had the derecho hit August 10th a year ago, which was basically a 140-mile tornado that covered 3/4 of our state and was really, really devastating to stored grain and to the crops that were still in the field. And so, but Iowans are tough, they're tenacious, they're dedicated, they're community-minded. I was visiting some storm damage this week, and the gentleman was saying, usually we go to other towns and help them, and I didn't even have to ask. And firefighters from all of the communities showed up, and usually by the time I get there, half the time you can't even tell a disaster has gone through because people show up and do the right thing, and they help their neighbors out. And that's just who we are as
Iowans.
You
can tell you love your state.
I love
you are such a proud governor. How did you get into being in politics? Tell me a little bit about you and your story.
Started in the private sector. I worked as a pharmacy tech. I loved that. But it was a small pharmacy, and so we had some big chains in town. And so you really it was customer service and really relating and providing that extra to survive. And so from there, I started working in the county.
I'm thinking about my pharmacy tech. I don't know if they quite had that skill. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's good.
I thought I was going to go into that, but I started working in the county treasurer's office, and it was so different from what I had experienced in the private sector. And so this is kind of a funny story. So I kept seeing things that I thought we could do a little bit differently, bring more technology. I'm a little bit of a change agent, not for the sake of change, but just because I like to look at processes and make it better. You'll get this. I shared a lot of my ideas with my husband over and over, and then the current treasurer decided not to run, which is very unusual. And I had never thought about running for office, ever. Nobody in my family, it was anything I'd ever thought of. And I was telling my husband about that, and he's kind of quiet and listened for a while. And pretty soon he said, well, this is kind of how I see this. He said, either you should run for county treasurer and implement all those wonderful ideas that you've been sharing with me for the last 4 years, or I probably don't want to hear another word about it.
So either go do it
or
zip your
zip
lip.
it. Yeah. And he meant it in the nicest way, but it was a little bit
that's
of
so
challenge.
supportive.
And and I did, and I implemented them, and I got positive feedback, and so it kind of took off from
And
there.
then you went to treasurer to...
I went to treasurer to the Iowa Senate.
Okay.
And then Governor Branstad asked if I would run as his lieutenant governor when he came back after his break. And then he was appointed ambassador to China. And then I stepped in and then finally ran. And I'm the first female governor of the state of Iowa.
We were part of your election. I think I was with you when you were appointed, like early on. I think I met you in Des Moines at some event.
Yep.
And you're the first woman governor.
Yeah.
So you're breaking barriers. That's so amazing. What would you say to a young woman who is looking at politics? And I'll just give a little of my experience. I ran into women all the time when I was Michigan chair, and they would talk about a lot of different things. And I don't like making women one group. But some of the issues we heard were the family life balance.
Yeah.
But the number 2 issue I heard was the vitriol. Like, I don't know if I can handle how vicious it is and how awful people are to each other. What would you say to somebody to get them to serve and overcome some of those obstacles?
I just think the reward of getting in there and making a difference way outweighs that. And actually, you can change that. I had a lot of the bills that I've worked on passed with bipartisan support, and I'm really proud of that. Future Ready Iowa, which is a workforce bill. I've done a lot with mental health, adult mental health reform. We implemented the first children's mental health system in the state of Iowa. They literally had been talking about it for 2 decades.
That's amazing.
And we got it done. And so I don't want to sound
especially coming out of this pandemic. That's so
it's
necessary.
So important, and we've really connected with the schools, and we did telehealth parity for mental health. So it was narrow component, but it was really important, I think, as we try to make sure with the rural areas, we have that coverage there and they can afford it and get the services that they need.
So the value
value, and that you can make a difference, and you can bring people, and I think women sometimes are better about doing that.
I agree. I think women are a little bit better. I always say, if someone gets in your face, right, what do? You take a step back.
Right.
But women are better at being a little bit, come with me, let's talk about it, and let's find the areas where we agree, and let's work on those. And I think people want to see more of that.
I agree.
In general.
I agree.
Okay, most important question, and we're going to end with this.
Okay.
Because I'm coming back next year for the Field of Dreams game.
Yes.
We already know that.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to come back for the state fair because I want to go to the Iowa State Fair. What is the best thing to eat at the Iowa State Fair?
I'm telling you, I eat my way through 11 days, but I walk a lot, so it's a balance.
Yeah, you're getting your steps in.
So we always recommend the pork chop on a stick is to die for. You'll get to flip some pork chops with me. That's always fun. People will love seeing you there.
I would love that.
We have a beef Sundae that's extremely good.
What is that?
Oh, it's like mashed potatoes and beef and kind of a gravy poured over the top, and it
actually sounds really good.
It's really good. It's a comfort food.
Okay.
But there's everything
on
in
the
between.
Sweet side? Anything on the...
I did the strawberry shortcake. It was a new food this year. We had 85 new foods, so there's always new things to try. I went back and got that again. So,
How many people come in for
over
that?
Over 1 million.
Really?
And the good thing was, too, so again, we've just really we can do this safely and responsibly, and this was contrary to some of the other fairs that were down like 30%. We were only down about 6% from 2019. We didn't have it in 20, but the 2 things that I heard the most at the Iowa State Fair, again, I was there all 11 days, was thank you for having a state fair and getting life back to normal. Thank you for getting our kids in school, not mandating a mask mandate, and stay strong. I had more women and moms come up to me and literally a lot of times in tears and just say, our kids need to be there. Just stay strong. Don't back down.
I feel that so much. I wish I had you as my governor. Do you want to be exported over to Michigan? Can you come
We're
help
going to get you some help.
My state, but I feel that. So
they were so
thank
sincere.
you for being such a great leader in our party and for staying strong for moms and kids across your state and everybody who's benefiting from your leadership.
Thanks,
Kim.
Thanks for all you do, too. And I
Thank you.
mean that sincerely.
Thank
we
you.
need a strong leader at the top, and you've provided that, and we're very, very, very grateful.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm Ronna McDaniel, and this is what Republicans stand for. Join us next time on Real America.